The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to give people about another minute here to sign in. It looks like people are still filing in, so we'll get started in just a minute. Looks like people are still filing in here, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to get to. So my name is Russ Clark. Thanks for joining us today. I'm BTRG's Business Development Manager. Before we get started with the presentation, I just have a few quick notes to go over. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you wish to ask a question, please use the question box located near the bottom of the control panel. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. Today's session is being recorded. By early next week, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the webinar replay, and all of our webinars are always posted on our website as well. I encourage you to check out our library of webinars from the past several years on our website, btrgroup.com. Please be aware that we do have a few polls throughout the presentation. Your participation is greatly appreciated and will help us kind of form our discussion here. So with that, I'll hand things over to Janet Martin, who is BTRG's Senior Solutions Architect with a lot of great experience working on the HR side and lately a lot of experience with eCompensation. So at this time, I'll pass it over to Janet. Janet, go ahead.
Thank you, Russ. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I want to go through a quick agenda today on what we're going to be talking about. As you can see here, a quick introduction and then an overview of what PeopleSoft 9.2 eCompensation is, why we feel it's the right choice for you as an organization to process especially your annual compensation cycles. We'll go through some features and functionality that exists today, and at the end there is about a 15-minute demo of the product itself and how we feel the different roles in the organization can utilize the software as a best fit for your organization. And then hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end of today's session. So I am Janet Martin. I've been working with BTRG for about 15 years, doing PeopleSoft for over 20 years. As Russ said, the last few years especially, I've been lucky enough to implement eCompensation now over 6 times for different types of organizations. So we have some good information for you today, and hopefully you'll find that it's very helpful to you. PeopleSoft eCompensation, if I start out with an example or an overview of what it is, it definitely is a global solution. We have many global customers that utilize this piece of functionality. But the way I like to talk about it is broken down into different roles within your organization that would actually utilize the software. So we have the compensation administrator or administrators, the managers who interact with compensation all year long, and especially at the end of the year when you're trying to do your annual comp cycle. They're proxies if you allow for other people to work on their behalf. And then the employees who want to see what their increase might be for that year, or what bonuses or awards you might be giving them. So it's nice to kind of break it down by role and see what is available within PeopleSoft. So as a comp administrator, your life is pretty busy and hectic when you're processing annual cycles. And a cycle might be something other than annual, though. It could be fiscal. Maybe it's a June to July, July to June fiscal year. Monthly, you might even process things monthly like recognition awards. We do have a few customers that actually run cycles every pay period, so biweekly and weekly, to do things like spot bonuses. It is very flexible in that you can create a cycle or build a cycle to be any time frame. A cycle may also be something that includes merit, promotion, adjustments, different types of transactions that hit your job data, action, reason combinations, or things like bonuses or incentives and awards that come through, in this example, through variable compensation. You may be paying these directly out of payroll today, and that might be causing you a lot of manual work in creating those bonus payments or awards. And then lastly, from the administrator side, you really want to be able to control who has access to the cycles. We do that through roles like manager and so forth, but we can also do it by individual. So you may have business partners within your organization that support all your managers. It's very easy within eComp to give specific individuals access to a certain group of managers so that they can help them throughout the year, and especially at the end when you're doing these very manually intensive comp cycles. If we move on to what the managers and their proxies are able to do, they can definitely allocate proposals or put in the changes they want to give to the individuals, whether it be an award amount or a % increase. We have a lot of approval workflow options that are available. They would submit their proposals and then it would flow through the hierarchy for approvals. They may delegate or assign a proxy to work on their behalf, and they always have access to great information around historical compensation increases and total rewards for their employees. And then lastly, not to forget about the employees, they have access to their own total reward statements as well as their compensation history as well through employee self-service. And then everyone has access to the wonderful new analytics that are in 9.2, especially with 855 tools. You have a lot of options to create and disseminate information through the analytics and decision support. So why might you use PeopleSoft eCompensation? So at BTRG, we recommend this for a lot of our customers, and one of the biggest reasons is today they actually have a very manual process. What does this manual process include? It could be creating numerous spreadsheets, one on top of another for each manager to extract all that information out of PeopleSoft today from job and compensation for all your employees and creating one spreadsheet per manager. So here's an example of what that might look like. For Betty, she might have 6 direct reports. So you would have to create an Excel spreadsheet that only has her information in it for her direct reports. And a lot of times you can extract a lot of this information using, let's say, PeopleSoft Query, but you might have to adjust these spreadsheets to include calculations, information that you want to make sure are they min, mid, and max for their salary grades, what is the range penetration for that individual. So there's a lot of information you might want to include in an Excel spreadsheet that is difficult to create in order to send out to each manager. We have one customer with over 5,000 employees and they have 500 managers. They create 500 spreadsheets and send those out to each manager. So that creation or that extract of the data and the build of the spreadsheets is very time consuming. Once you've created the spreadsheets, you have to get those out to the individuals. So maybe you email them or you put them on some type of media that you can send to them. Anyway, it has to be secure, most times password protected, so there's a lot of information and work that has to go around protecting the data that you're sending out. Once the managers receive the spreadsheets, they need to make the updates. So you can see here the yellow column might be where they insert or change the percentage they want to give to each individual. You may have other columns within the spreadsheet that have tracking of a balance of the amount of money they were funded for. But you can see here, because it's a spreadsheet, there's really very little that you can do to make sure the managers are doing the job they need to be doing. So let's say you give them 3 weeks to update the spreadsheet. You don't know at the end of week 1 how much have they updated, have they even touched the spreadsheet, and have they been doing it correctly. So there's a lot of work in meeting with the managers and making sure that they're updating their spreadsheets. And then when they're complete, you need to receive that information back. So again, are they emailing it back to you, password protected, and so forth. The last thing, once you receive all the Excel spreadsheets back, you have to validate the data. Who knows what they've put into the spreadsheet. You have to make sure it's correct and that it will be in the right format for you to be able to load it back into both job data and into the compensation tables. So a lot of work goes into processing this manually. We've seen many of our customers doing it this way. It can take weeks or months to produce the Excel spreadsheets and send out. One thing we've noticed a lot of is if it takes you, let's say, 2 months, in 2 months, the data within the spreadsheets might already be out of date. Someone may have transferred to another manager and so forth. So there's a lot of work that might be happening even while the managers are doing their Excel spreadsheets where the data has been changed in the underlying source data within PeopleSoft. So a lot of work that's going on there. The good thing is within PeopleSoft compensation, this is all delivered functionality. So we're going to go through how this happens today and how you guys could utilize this software. And for number 2, the reason we see mostly is because people really want to, our customers really want to cut that timeline. Some definitely by more than 50%, so from a 4-month to a 2-month time frame. And even outside of that, we've had some that will go from a 4-month down to a 3-week time frame. So 50 to 80% improvement in the timeline for this specific process. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Russ so he can ask you guys a poll question. Russ, go ahead.
Launching the poll now, and you should see it pop up on your screen. If we'll just take 30 seconds here, if you could quickly answer. So how long does your annual compensation process for merit adjustments and promotions take? So that's what we're trying to get an idea from the room here, the length of your compensation processes. Okay, it looks like we have 80% of the people voted. I'll close it out here in about 5 seconds. If you haven't voted, just real quick. Okay, I'll close it out now. And I think I can share the results there. So you see, Janet, I don't know if you can see that, but typically the highest percentage was 1 month to 3 months, 57%, followed by 2 to 4 weeks at 22%.
Okay, great. Thanks, Russ. Definitely a number that we're used to seeing. We do have some customers that are in the greater than 3-month area. But again, the more pieces or more components that you include in your comp cycle, and if it's just plain merit, if it's just a merit increase, that would definitely make it shorter. If you're trying to include additional types of transactions like promotions or adjustments and then bringing in things like annual bonuses or incentives, the process can take longer. So you're definitely saving a lot of time and money in the end by improving this process and making it automated, including it in your PeopleSoft transactions. So if we continue on as to why we see eCompensation being implemented, a lot of customers actually have a third-party product. So we've run into a few that export the data out of PeopleSoft, send it to a third-party provider, and then managers actually access a whole different system to do their annual merit increases. Again, you have to train them on a different product. If they're already using PeopleSoft to do self-service, then it is something that doesn't look the same, doesn't have that same look and feel. In addition to that, once you send the data, again, you might have changes that occur that you can't handle or can't send updates to the third-party provider. And then you have to get the information back, validate it, and load it back into PeopleSoft. So again, money around cost of the third-party application, as well as the integration, maybe the programs are such that you're using to extract the data and import the data back into PeopleSoft. We do have one customer that actually gets the data back, and they do a lot of manual entry just to make sure it's getting into job data the way they want it. So again, could be many different types, but either you're manually doing it with spreadsheets, or you may be using a third party and having to write interfaces to get the data back and forth. The last point I want to make is a lot of people don't know you already own variable compensation. So if you have PeopleSoft HR, the core HR product, you own variable compensation module. So it's part of your license. It's there for you to utilize at no extra cost. And also, we found a lot of customers were sold eCompensation when they first purchased PeopleSoft. So it was bundled together, or you made some special negotiations and you received it. We call it shelfware. So you have it, you own it, you're not using it, you haven't implemented it, but it is something that you've already purchased. So again, you've already paid for it and you're not using it. So in the end, what we want to say is you're already paying for it, why not utilize it? Get rid of custom interfaces or manual processes that you might be using today or doing today for bonuses, any type of variable compensation or cash payouts, as well as doing your merit increases, either manually or through a third party. So we hope that this would save quite a bit of money for you in the long haul and make the system much easier to use. Okay, so the second and last poll for today, I'll turn it back over to Russ. We're trying to figure out if you already own it, if you've implemented it and use it, or if you haven't been using either.
Okay, yeah, the poll is now launched. I'll give you guys a couple seconds here to answer. Looks like we're at about 70% have voted, so just give it a couple more seconds for those still looking. Okay, so if you can see the results, it looks like 55% of the people who voted own eComp and or variable comp but do not use it. So by far the most. The second place was use variable comp only at 25% and don't use either. Use a third-party provider at 20%.
Okay, great. Thanks, Russ. So again, that definitely tracks with what we've been seeing with our customers that have contacted BTRG to help them with this module. So what does it really cost to actually implement it? So what I've put together here is a quick little rough order of magnitude to let you guys know what we're seeing in the different types of projects that we're implementing. Typically, we've seen that at a minimum, it takes about 3 months to implement eCompensation. So right now is actually a great time to be thinking about it, especially if you're, let's say, an October comp cycle process start date. You finish up maybe in November, and then you put the new increases in for January of next year. A 3-month time frame includes us doing some analysis with you and the configuration, and then the majority of it is testing to make sure that it does work the way you want it to, the managers can access it easily, and quickly you can validate the information and load it back into job and compensation. So at a minimum, we say about 3 months to do that, and that's if you're using the delivered features within the product. We typically add up to an additional 3 months if there are customizations that need to be made to the product. It is definitely improving with every release. If you look at the 18-month plan features and enhancements that are coming out, there are compensation items on that list. We work closely with Oracle to help provide information to them on what our customers are seeing and needing within this module. And definitely some great improvements along with analytics that are coming out. We do a lot of reporting through customizations, but with the new analytics tool, easier to do those types of things with delivered configurable reports. So that's a great improvement. Low complexity with delivered functionality. We've been able with one resource in about 10 to 14 weeks at a cost of about $75K to $100 implement the full suite that's here within this, the features that are in this module. Medium complexity, we do have some customers that want a few changes to the software, again, reports, maybe some changes on some of the screens, some automated updates for certain areas. Again, 14 to 20 weeks, about 150 to 300, and that's with 1 to 2 resources doing both the functional and technical work. And then lastly, we do have one customer, high complexity. They had quite a few customizations. We definitely recommend against the customizations, but when needed, due to your requirements, we've been in projects that last up to 5 or 6 months and cost somewhere in the range of $350 to $500, depending on how many resources and technicals we provide. So I like to look at this and say, what could you actually save? Again, if you're a 3 to 4 month process, you're looking at maybe a comp administrator, a couple of business partners, your manager's time in doing their proposals, where they could do it in a week and they're taking up to three to 4 weeks to actually get those back to you. There's a lot of time savings, cost savings there, as well as just giving the managers and the employees a quick, easy self-service access to this critical information, all secured within the PeopleSoft application, all secured by either supervisor ID or a hierarchy that you guys propose. So again, a great return on the investment that you've already, in some cases, purchased. So you already own it. Why not utilize it? Okay. So just for the remainder of the session, we're going to look at some of the key features and functionality and do a quick for you guys. Again, role-based. If I look at the comp administrator, they have a new homepage or work center, which is fantastic. Makes managing the cycle much easier. The Manage Cycle Transactions page will show you that. I'll do a demo of the comp analytics that are available. How easy it is to actually define the compensation cycle and how it pulls all the information together in a seamless integration within PeopleSoft HCM. So we'll go through a few of those. When you get the replay of this, it'll have the screenshots for you that are easy to look at here, but we'll talk through the Work Center, and you'll see all these during the demo. The Manage Cycle Transactions, the Administer Cycle page, makes it easy, workflow driven to run the processes, and what the analytics look like for the comp administrator. We'll also go through some features for the manager. We'll look at how a manager does his compensation proposals, how they can view the compensation history of their employees, the embedded analytics for the manager to do his decision support, as well as the automated workflow and approval routing. And then lastly, you'll see those screenshots here in the slide deck for you, the compensation history. And lastly, the employee. And I'm going to show you what the employee can see via the total rewards and their view of their compensation and benefit history. Okay, so you'll get to see a demo of the total rewards system as well. Okay, so we're going to start the demo here and talk through some of the new features. As you can see, the navigation has changed quite a bit. There is the fluid home pages with the tiles, and it is definitely role-based. So if I go up here to the top and drop down, you can see I have my manager self-service is my default when I log in. I have access to my employee self-service, the workforce administrator, and the talent administrator. So again, home pages that are fluid, tile-based. For today's demonstration, we're going to go to Workflow Administrator, or Workforce Administrator, and we're going to see some of the tiles here. You can see things like Benefits Administration as a tile, New Hire Tasks, even the Payroll Work Center has tiles now, but we're going to look at the Comp Administrator tile. And by clicking on that, it's going to actually take us to the new Work Center for the Comp Administrator. You can see here on the left-hand side we have Comp Management, Compensation Configuration, and the Total Rewards. And again, I'm the Comp Administrator. That's my role right now. The Allocate Compensation area is very similar. It's the same look and feel as what a manager would see. So it's easy for the Comp Administrator to look at what the manager is seeing in order to help support them. Within the comp configuration area, we're going to see in a little bit how easy it is to define the cycle. And then lastly, I'll show you some total rewards statements that are produced out of the compensation module. Okay, so to start with this, we actually want to look at managed cycle transactions. So I am Jean Parsons. I am the comp administrator, but I can see the whole hierarchy for, let's say in this case, the top of the tree is Betty Lockerty. So by being a comp administrator, I'm able to see every manager within the organization and all the employees that report to them. And I can do that through managed cycle transactions. So as this comp administrator, I have access to everyone. I can actually see here that I'm logged in as the comp administrator role. Betty Lockerty, it explains who the organization is that I'm looking at. And I have the ability to save information, discard any changes, and the big one here, mark ready to load. So as the administrator, when everything is done and I say it looks right, we can load it back into job and compensation. Below that, you'll see an area for the organizational summary. This hierarchy of this tree has 10 employees in it, very small for demo purposes, but it's made up of two components, the merit increase and a bonus plan. All 10 employees are eligible. You can see here that to the right we have information about salaries, the total proposed awards, and any balance that we have remaining to utilize. So at any time you can see how much money you have and how much you can give out to the individuals within this cycle. So it's very easy to keep track. I also have the same tab and information for my direct reports. So I can see both the one person, Roseanne, that reports to me directly as Betty Lockerty, or I can see the indirect reports at the bottom. And those are the individuals that report to Rosanna Channing. So I have both direct reports and indirect reports, and I can see them at any time, both as a manager and as the comp administrator. The same balances apply to all the different groupings, and it's broken down into two tabs, the merit pay and the bonus plan tabs within this comp cycle. For the merit pay, you can see we have current salary, the total funded amount, the funded, that's percentage, the amount that could be given out proposed, and a lot of information here within that grid. This is all configurable, so you guys can turn on the fields you want to see and turn off the ones you don't. It is very easy to configure this, and we'll show you an example of that coming up. At the bottom you can see there's a link to Rosanna's people. It is based on her employee ID there at the bottom. If I look at the bonus plan tab, I can also see there's different information for the bonuses. So I can control the fields that get displayed based on the plan I'm working in. So if we drill down, we actually have the ability to continue to drill down the hierarchy into the lower levels to see their direct reports. So now I'm down in the direct reports for Rosanna Channing, and you can see that she has two supervisors that report to her. So they have direct reports. So you can continue to drill down through the hierarchy that you've built to be used with this comp cycle. Again, we see the same information, the two different plans, the two different tabs. It's very easy and very consistent. It's very easy to make changes. So here is an example. I'll change this to 2,000 instead of what it was as a default, maybe 1,300 instead of 1,310 or 1,350. 2,000 here. And as I'm doing this, it's actually updating the balance in the upper right-hand corner. So I can see that I still have $484 I can give out to my direct reports. It's always updated immediately, and it will tell you if you've gone over your allocated budget. I can save it. If I'm not sure this is what I want to do, I can discard my changes. And once I've completed everything, I would submit it. So instead, I'm going to drill down a little bit further to see what Edmund's done. It always tells you if you made changes that you haven't saved, so that's a nice feature. If you wanted to save that, you could. I'm just going to say no and move on to Edmund to see what he's done. So Edmund is at the bottom of the hierarchy. He only has one direct report, and you can see the submit button is available now. So he has no indirect reports. The nice thing about comp is it forces the lower level managers to do their work first and submit it up the chain for approval. It definitely keeps the higher level managers involved and engaged. They cannot submit their proposals until their supervisors have submitted it up to them for approval. And it is included in their org summary data. You can see here that when I submit on our approval workflow, it's going to go to the next higher level, which is Rosanna. So very easy to enter this information and submit for approval. Each manager has their own analytics they can run. We're going to show some analytics here in just a second. But again, I can run it for each plan or my whole set of individuals as one comp cycle analytic. So I'm going to navigate back to the top of the hierarchy here so I can see all 10 people, and I'm going to look at some of the analytics that are available. Comp distribution and salary analysis, again, delivered analytics. So if I choose the salary analytic, it's going to run this quickly and show me a nice bar graph here. Again, delivered, very easy to utilize and configure. Hovering over will show me information about the bar, and I can also filter to get more or less information. So the filters are on the left. For example, here, if I wanted to just see the indirects and not the directs, for example, I just check the box and it actually redisplays the analytics that are provided. Again, very easy to use. The columns at the top I can change. Instead of seeing current annual, I could say show me the proposed % increase instead, and it will redraw my analytics, in which case I can check to see, oh, Daryl's getting a 5% increase, and that makes sense based on what he got on his performance review. I can change it to show it as a pie chart. May or may not make sense to see different ways to display this, but I just want to show you here that I can hover and actually drill down with the analytics into the underlying data in the grid format from where it came. So again, many new features in the analytics area that make this a very nice tool for reporting purposes and decision support. So we'll go ahead and close these out. Close out my analytic, and I'm back to my Manage Cycle Transactions page. Okay. So a pretty nice, easy way for the managers to look at their, or the comp administrator to look at their transactions and run the analytics on the full set of data. So the next thing I want to actually show you is how easy it is to configure the system. So what we're going to do here is go into Define Comp Cycles and look at the configuration. Again, Focal 23 is what we were using. I'm a comp administrator still, and we're going to look at some of these items. I can set up the funding begin and end dates. I connect it to a group ID for eligibility. Again, it uses group build, which is similar to PS Query. I attach a tree. In this case, it was a supervisor ID-based tree, which told me my hierarchy. I did a USD planning currency, but I can do currency conversions. It's very good with the different conversions. As well as tie it to a performance integration. So here I wanted to use PeopleSoft ePerformance to get all my ratings, so I could tie that together for increases. On the second page, this is where I set up my salary plans. So here's the merit increase that we were processing as Plan 1. You can have multiple plans here. I could do Plan Sequence 2 to have as a promotion. Below is where I set up the configurable matrix for the funding and the minimum and maximum percentages, maybe based on performance review. And then you can see at the bottom, I assign through configuration the action and action reason that go along with this merit increase. So you can have multiple, and Plan Sequence will define the insert method that it uses to put the data back into job. So it's very easy to do multiple plans there. In addition to that, on the awards page is where I tie in things that come from variable compensation. So here I have the bonus plan that we were looking at. Again, I used a calculation over in variable comp to come up with the defaulted amount that I wanted to put into the grid. But I'm making it discretionary so a manager can override the amount that was calculated. I can also have multiple awards. So I could have an incentive, a bonus, and so forth. On the last page, I can set up currency conversion to display, use a notepad. I can allow my indirect reports to be updated, not just my direct reports. I can enable delegation and show award history within the cycle. So again, all configurable with a checkbox. I can turn on approval workflows using AWE. In this example, we're using the one-step approval, but there are others delivered. And again, with AWE, you can create your own approval steps and who they go to. So that's very configurable. And then lastly, very easy to turn on and off the fields that you want to see in the grid. I want the employee ID to be added, their job code, and maybe the full part-time indicator. So I can turn those on. You can see there's quite a few fields as delivered that I can add to the grids just by turning the checkbox on or off. It's very simple. I can also do this for the awards grid as well. So I can have different fields displayed for variable comp awards versus my salary plans that are going to job data. So again, just clicking on the fields will show them in the grid, and here's a list of all those that are available for the awards. So very easy to configure what the grids look like. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the navigator. I want to show you the new navigation bar. Again, a different way of navigating if you're not on 9.2 yet. And we're going to go to Administer Cycle. So as a comp administrator, I have complete access to processing the cycle. And it's very easy. It's clicking a button to build the information, to pull everything together that we've configured. And then when it looks right, I can open it to my managers so that they can start seeing it when we open the cycle. When everyone has submitted their proposals and we validate it, we can load the information through a click of a button here back to job and variable comp. And then when we're completed with the whole cycle, we close it. It still leaves the information out there to be seen by managers. You can see it's an iterative process. So I can build, look at the information, cancel, and rebuild. I can also see comp analytics, like cycle tracking. This is the way you can see which managers are doing what they're supposed to be doing during that open period. So at any time, I can run an analytic to see who's submitted, who's approved, who's been denied, just through an analytic that's delivered here within the comp analytics page for Administer Cycle. The guidelines as well. Are people outside of their guidelines giving more than the percentages allowed? So the last thing I want to show you before we end this slide, the demonstration slide today, is I want to show you what the manager can see. So if we use the navigator again and go back to Manager Self-Service, the Allocate Comp is there. The managers want to do their Allocate Compensation. We've already seen that today, but I want to show you the View Comp History page. So again, delivered within self-service, the ability for a manager and or an employee to see their compensation history. You can see here the date of change is listed at any point in time that they've been from the time they were hired until today, things that have changed their compensation. Clicking on a link will show me the details specific to that transaction. And the other nice thing I can do here is there is a nice chart, comp history chart, that will show in a line graph here the increases that he's received throughout based on base salary. So again, a nice little way to look at the comp history that's provided. Hovering over any of the dots will show me the amount at that time. So if I return, the other piece I wanted to talk about is the total rewards. So let's go down here to View Total Rewards. And the total rewards, again, I'm going to select Edmund to see his information. An employee can see this same information, but this is a display of the total rewards. You can see this is for 2015. There's a summary tab, which includes comp, life, all your benefits, your training, different types of information that's provided to this individual from the company. Their compensation, their health, let's say their health and dental insurance, what's employee and employer paid, and so forth, life, retirement, different vacation plans. I can also view a summary chart, which is nice. So I can see within a pie chart here how much makes up my compensation from my salary versus something like retirement, which makes up my components here at 13%. So a very easy way to see this in a pie chart. I can also look at it historically. So the more data you have and you use eComp, you can show historically how this information has changed, or the employee and manager can go back and see it. And for those that like to have a printed version, there is a friendly printer version that could be printed by the employee if they'd like to see it that way. So again, just a really nice, easy way to view all the compensation, not just salary-based information, but your benefits, as well as things like training. And this is definitely configurable and includes both data that's within PeopleSoft and can be pulled in from outside of PeopleSoft. So they provide a mechanism for you to include information from outside sources as well. Okay, so that completes the demonstration today. Our educational session around eCompensation. Russ, I'm not sure if we have any questions that have come in, but definitely from my perspective, it is an easy win to implement eCompensation. Utilize software that you already own. It is a quick win because we can get it done in 3 to at maximum 6 months, even if you're customizing the product. And Oracle is definitely putting new features into this product even as we speak, and we're definitely the first thing we just saw was the work center for the comp administrator, a great improvement as more fluid pages come out and are provided to you as customers. It's a great time, and we're really excited about this product, and hopefully you guys will be too. If you have any questions, that is my email information there. You can just send it to Ask Janet, and it comes directly to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I am presenting at OHUG in 2 weeks, a session on comp. There at the conference. If any of you are attending, we'd love to see you and say hello. Please attend if you can. If not, then thank you for attending today. And Russ, I'll turn it back over to you to see if there's any questions.
Thanks, Janet. Yeah, we do have a couple questions here. And as Janet mentioned, before we get to the questions, we're happy to have an in-depth conversation with you if you would be curious about your specific situation and what it would take to implement. So obviously reach out to Janet here, give us a call, or go on our website. We actually have a new forum feature called Ask the Experts, and you can post a question and interact with Janet and some of our other experts when it comes to these topics. Janet, the first question is compensation administrator employee access controlled by department security tree?
Sure, so that's a good question. The access to the information can be controlled in multiple ways. So there is the ability to define the hierarchy through your tree. So it's tree manager. There is a supervisor build that's delivered that you can base it on supervisor ID or manager. But we have customers that create a whole different tree that actually is used for compensation. So a lot of times we'll build a default tree, and then we'll actually go into Tree Manager and change the way the tree looks for comp purposes. So maybe for typical HR transactions, I report to Joe, but for compensation, I need to report to Sue. So I can actually change that reporting hierarchy within the tree, and then eComp uses the tree to restrict who I see within the comp cycle. And on top of that, there are ways to limit, if you didn't, let's say you had the lowest level of your managers in the company, you didn't want them to have access to do comp proposals. You wanted it to start 2 levels up within the organization. I can actually take access away from the lowest level manager and only have the second level up do the proposals. So you have a lot of flexibility in controlling which managers see which data and which comp administrators see which data. So we definitely have ways to restrict that, and it is definitely flexible.
Okay, great. Another question is, are you able to view the pie charts, analytics, or /analytics by demographic, i.e. whole company versus manager reports? As
delivered, it's based on where you are within the comp cycle, but we do have this come up quite a bit, and we create different filters within the delivered analytics and create new analytics that can be used for that reason. So as delivered, you'll see it based on the context of where you are within the comp cycle, where I clicked on the analytic. But outside of that, we build quite a few analytics that are just based on who the person is that's running it and what access they have to individuals within the organization.
Okay. Another question, does or can eCompensation utilize a merit matrix to recommend a minimum and or maximum merit increase percentage?
Absolutely. So we have one customer today who is an international company, and they even break it down by the currency code. So we use configurable matrices to handle that, and they are delivered integration to the comp cycle grids, so that if you try to recommend a percentage that's outside of what's in the merit grid, then it gives the managers warnings and doesn't allow them to do certain transactions. So that is fairly easy to do, and it is all configuration. So we were really happy to be able to use the matrices for that.
Okay. How often is eCompensation updated?
So I'm thinking you mean updated from Oracle with new features, or
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't read it all. So how often is the eCompensation software module updated?
okay. That's a good question. We've seen improvements in it over the last few releases. Definitely even the last release with the new work center that came out for comp. I know that I speak with the product manager quite a bit, and I'm going to recommend to people as well, go out to the MOSC. You can vote on new features that are being thought about to include in the module. And we definitely have had quite a few recommendations we made to Oracle, and they've been great at listening to the ideas and putting those out for votes. So I would recommend going out there and looking at the new features that are being thought about and are on the planned enhancements list. That's the PFE, if you go out to peoplesoftinfo.com to find those. But we have seen improvements over the last few releases, and we hope to see more.
Okay. One more question here. My company is on 9.1 and planning to upgrade to 9.2, but not for about another year. Would it be better to implement eComp on 9.1 and then upgrade, or wait for the upgrade?
You can actually go ahead and do that on 9.1. We do have customers that are still on 9.1, and the functionality is very similar. There are definitely improvements in 9.2 that you would want, but it is still a very high-functioning, full of features module in 9.1 and can improve if you're doing something manually or third-party today. So if you have to wait that long and you want to utilize 9.1, it's absolutely still a great product to use and can benefit you in the short term.
Okay. Let's see. Does the eComp module come with the ability to do modeling? Do managers have the ability to model compensation scenarios within the product?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have one customer that uses it only as a modeling tool. So they set up the managers with access, and they allow them to go out and just make changes, actually even update. We've set it up so that they can update salaries and other information within the grids, but they don't ever import that data back into job or compensation, so they only use it as a modeling or planning tool. And they find that very useful. It's easy to get it out to all managers, and you don't have to worry about the approval workflow and all that. You just need to build the cycle and let them utilize it to make changes and see how it affects their bottom line. So it is actually a pretty good tool for that, and I'd definitely be interested in talking to whoever that came from to see if there's other ways you might be able to use it to do some of the modeling features.
Okay. How out of the box is the product? Is there a fair amount of setup work?
Actually, it's funny because I've gone through fit gap sessions with customers, and I've set up their merit cycle in, honestly, an hour. It can be done very quickly to get something out for you guys to pilot and look at. All the devil in the details comes with, is my hierarchy right? Is my eligibility right in my group build? Do I want to set up a merit matrix, increase configurable matrices? But the standard configuration right out of the box, I've actually had a running prototype for people within an hour of sitting down with them and getting their requirements. So it can be done very quickly, and that's why I think it's absolutely a great tool and doesn't require a lot of work up front to get it working for you.
Okay, great. One more question here. Are all of the elements in eCompensation reportable by PeopleSoft Query?
They certainly are, yep. So the nice thing about PeopleSoft is, you have access to everything that's in the database. Query is used quite a bit on the front end for the group build to determine eligibility for a cycle. And you can do all kinds of connected queries, composite queries now with the new tool set. So it is quite a robust engine now that you can do all these things with PS Query. And then, of course, those queries feed into your pivot grids and your analytics. So it's all accessible, and it improves every release.
Okay. So that's it as far as the questions. There actually are a couple people who have asked to see some specifics in the demo. What we're going to do is I'll reach out to those people, and we'd be happy to set up a separate call and kind of go through some specifics that you're looking to see. I don't think we're able to do it right this moment, but I do see that, and I'll make a note and I'll reach out to you separately. Janet, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we close things out?
Nope, I appreciate everyone attending today. I hope it was informational, and certainly I'm happy to talk with anyone and give demonstrations. I'm very familiar with the product, and I'm happy to say that it is one of my favorites to implement now. So hopefully you guys will find it useful, and we can discuss things further in the future.
Great. So thanks, Janet, for your effort in showing the product today, and thanks everyone for your participation. We really hope that you found it valuable. Again, don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions, want to see a demo, want to bring some more of your team on to see a demo. Head to our website, check out the Ask the Experts forum, and ask questions there as well. We're happy to have a conversation. So with that, I'll close things out. Thanks again, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.